Hey, my name is Matt Deuschle, and today I'll be telling you about my summer 2022-2023 internship experience with Related California on their 710 Broadway project in Santa Monica. So, to tell you a little bit about the project, it's a mixed-use development project. It's a $300 million project consisting of 600,000 gross square feet, as well as 280 residential units on top of a Vons grocery store and Equinox gym. So, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Lamont, Illinois, a super small Chicago suburb, and I came to Purdue in the spring of 2022, not knowing what engineering field specifically I wanted to go into. I met with my grade advisor, Brandon Folk. We found that I'd be a great fit for construction engineering management, and he had the chance to come see me on site and see it for himself this past most recent summer. So that was a great opportunity, and let's talk about the project. So, here is what the project looks like on Google Maps before we broke ground. And in 2022, my first internship experience, we didn't break ground at all. It was all pre-con, and the only work on site was utility relocation. So, this square outlines the project. We have our Vons grocery store, parking lot, and an alley in between. And this alley is a major utility highway for the city of Santa Monica. So that the development team had to negotiate with the city so that the construction team could go ahead, relocate these utilities around 7th Street, and then we can excavate fully without any utilities in the way. And this is what it looked like. I'm all the way on the right side, and you can see the little circle on Broadway. This is where I'm talking to some subcontractors as we relocate a saltwater line. So during my first 2 weeks of my internship, I just studied drawings the entire time, and I learned so much just from those first 2 weeks. But I do wish I knew a little bit more about the drawings before I came in. I only had a semester under my belt, so I wish I knew more about drawings. I wish I knew more about Bluebeam, because I used a lot of Bluebeam to do all my takeoffs, and also Procore. I wish I knew more about Procore as well. But we did drawing reviews, and these were intense, long meetings, and I would go through the drawings and mark them up and create packages to send to the architects. So that consisted of a lot of my summer, and then we were also in the bidding process, and I was tasked with bidding insulation, so I'd call all these vendors and contractors, and this is something I wish I knew how to do before too. I have no selling experience, so I was out there and basically selling the project. If that makes sense, a lot of these contractors and vendors would tell me that they're too small or they're too far from the project site, and I'd have to sell them the project, tell them how great the opportunity is, and get them to bid the project even if it wasn't guaranteed. So fast forward a year to the summer of 2023, and we're finally doing stuff. We're shoring and excavating. So here you can see a drill. This is Dakota Drilling, and what they're doing is they're drilling for tiebacks. And tiebacks are these rods that go into the ground for support vertically or horizontally at an angle. And you can see the guy down here leaning on one. And we needed one row of tiebacks throughout the entire project. And what the excavation and lagging kind of looked like here is we have a mini excavator that's kind of grading the wall, and all that wood is lagging that the guys behind them are putting up. Another form of structural security for the shoring and lagging are these rakers. So you can see that we're digging along another building here. So our tiebacks would go into the parking garage, so we can't do tiebacks. We had to use rakers, which are these horizontal tube steels that are welded to these whalers, which are just horizontal beams. And these provided the necessary support, but they were harder to deal with because you had to excavate around and under them. In the office, I didn't have a direct supervisor, so I bounced around. I worked with structural, I worked with finishes, and but mainly I worked with MEPs. That's where they needed the most help. So one of the greatest triumphs I had was doing a very large couple RFIs for a MEP RCP, basically taking the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing and overlaying it with the reflective ceiling plans and making sure there was no exposed MEPs. And here we did have some exposed MEPs. There's actually a lot of them. That's why the RFIs were so long. But you can see where there's no texture on the drawing, that's exposed ceiling, and we have this overlaid HVAC and sprinkler line running through it. So I marked up a bunch of drawings and units, sent them to the architect, and they'd return to me with updated RCP where they would they'd usually put soffit, which is basically an extension of the ceiling to conceal these MEPs, and then I'd send that to the subcontractors, especially the fire sprinkler subcontractors, because they needed to update the amount of sprinkler heads based on the ceiling. One of the greatest challenges we faced was, so on this right side, to give you some context, we have a shotcrete test panel. Shotcrete is what we wanted to use for most of our shear walls. So we wanted to shoot the concrete instead of pouring it, and in order to get that approved, we needed to get our nozzle men to shoot a test panel, which is one of the most condensed areas of rebar, and then they would core it, and you get these cylinders that are circled down here, and these cores are taken to a lab and inspected for strength and consistency in order to get approved. So that's kind of how they test concrete, and on the left side here we have our first tower crane mat, and circled is the base of our tower crane. And this was a very important pour because getting the first tower crane up was essential for moving the project forward as quickly as possible, because then we could pick things up and move them everywhere. And the problem we ran into is we made the pour and the concrete did not cure to strength as quickly as we thought it would, and it needed to cure to 4,000 psi. So what they'd do is they'd core the concrete footing just like they did with the test panel, but for the mat footing, and then they'd break them in the lab under a certain amount of pressure. And since it didn't cure the strength, we had to move around a bunch of logistics, and it slowed the project down. It was a great challenge. So here's a summary of what I wish I knew. I wish I spent more time working with Bluebeam and Procore. That would have been super helpful. And just having a better understanding of the drawings and how to talk to people. Like, it was a huge process or learning curve to go into the field and talk to these tradesmen, subcontractors, and even my coworkers without bothering them. Like, you want to learn, you just want to be like, what are you doing? But I found it very valuable whenever I had a question to come with my own idea first before asking for theirs. So biggest challenge was, that's also the biggest challenge, is learning to talk to people, and also that tower crane mat footing was the biggest challenge for the job site. And then concept to reality, I'm sorry, I accidentally exited it out. Concept to reality, obviously seeing the project from pre-construction go into come to life was that was obvious for me there. The greatest triumph was just getting those RFIs closed. They're really long MEP, RCP layout RFI. Closing that was very fulfilling and very big triumph for me. And then lessons learned. Everything I talked about today, I learned from work experience, and it is so valuable, and I'm lucky to have 2 internships under my belt already, and I hope you learned something from me speaking of my experience today. Thank you.